Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to the Fighters Rep Podcast, episode 65. I'm your host, the Fighters Rep Fez, joined by none other than the baldest, baddest mofo from South Florida, the king of Richmond Heights, ignorant behavior. Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I had a long weekend. I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but my lips are all chapped up. My nose is bleeding and cracking and chapped up. We went to Las Vegas, Gary. I turned into a lizard out there in the desert, man. Look at me. I'm just falling apart, trying to get some chapstick in my life for that baseball tournament we went to. But otherwise, I'm good, man. I'm ready to get this podcast going.
Hey, you kind of freezing up some a little bit here. Am I freezing on your end?
No, you look fine on my end, and everything seems to be going smoothly here.
All right, I can hear your voice, but sometimes it freezes on your video. But it's cool. Go ahead. We'll see what happens.
Maybe it doesn't like my face. What have you been up to?
Not much, man. Turkey, it was Turkey Day on Thursday. Had to fry some turkey up, ham, had to cook some stuff up. So, I'm good, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Well, speaking of turkey, and happy holidays to everyone at Knucklehead Nation, we got some big news from Turkey, and not the American turkey, but the Saudi turkey. And I want to talk about that in a little bit. But today's episode, we're talking about Boots Ennis, potentially ducking Vergil Ortiz. That's the rumor going around the rumor mill. And we'll touch on a few things. Gary, you said you wanted to talk about Schofield versus Shakur Stevenson. And it's, they're related because both of these fights would be on that card Turkey Al Sheikh is trying to put together here on the 22nd of February of next year, which will be, Gary, what looks to me to be one of the best boxing cards in history, dare I say, if he can pull this one off. But first and foremost, man, a lot of people are talking about our boy, Jaron Boots Ennis. And I know he's even more your boy than mine because, I still think Bud is the man. But, obviously I told you, I think Boots is, potentially headed in that direction. It's just an experience and age difference. And it looks like a fight that Turkey was trying to put together for that February card, Garrett, for that Riyadh season card, was Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz at 154 pounds. It sounded like it was going through. It sounds like it's still possible to go through, but it sounds less likely now. It seems that, maybe someone from Ennis's side is saying no, and the rumor mill is going crazy saying, he may be ducking Vergil Ortiz. What do you think about this situation? Do you think it's a duck? Tell me what you think about it, Gary.
I'm a big Boots fan. Probably one of the biggest Boots fans. Man, you get into it about Boots all the time. Yeah. But I mean, it's just kind of like it looks bad on him. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. Because we've been hearing for weeks now, ever since after the Karen fight, they were saying, Boots get in the ring, and he's saying, maybe it's time to move it up to 154, and I got more pop up there. And then Eddie Hearn, even before the Karen fight was over, was saying, we'll fight anybody, 147, 154. We're just trying to get guys, and, people labeling you as the boogeyman, that people are scared to fight you. Yeah. And so when these negotiations are going and it's getting deep into it and everybody knows about it, then out of nowhere, Boots, their camp pulls out, and then Boots puts a message out saying, hey, man, if it don't come from me, it ain't official. Like, all this stuff about, I didn't know negotiations. How do you not know? The world knows.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
crazy.
It's kind of hard to believe that you didn't know anything about negotiations. Yeah. Then Eddie Hearn later comes out, and your dad was talking about it. Now Eddie Hearn comes out and say, yeah, he told y'all what's going on. They put 147 at first, but then they said it was a mistake. It's at 154 later on. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to say that's the confusion or whatever. But regardless of what, you couldn't have thought that Ortiz was coming down to 147. he left 147 because he almost killed himself trying to make the way.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
he's not coming back down to 147.
Yeah.
You know, it's 154. And you say you're a big welterweight. You say you want to go as far as 168. And you said after the fight, it may be time to go to 154. You're complaining because you can't get any of the 147 champs to actually fight you. And this is a big fight, man. This would have been a big fight, a big thing on your record. And so it looks bad on his part. I mean, he made Eddie Hearn look bad by saying what he said.
Yeah.
I really think that he probably is not sure if he wants to leave 147 and go 154 yet. He hasn't made that decision. So I think that's the thing he's struggling with. But you can go to 154 and come back down 147. Eddie Hearn said you had to vacate the title. No, you don't. You just did your mandatory. You can talk to IBF and say, hey, I'm going to do this fight and come back down. And we've seen fighters do that all the time. You know what I mean? So I mean, I just for me, I know he had a goal of wanting to unify the belts at 147. But bro, if they're not fighting you and you need fights, you're not getting any younger, you're getting older. You know, you got to go. It's the reason why Benavidez moved up to go fight.
Yeah.
He's not waiting around.
Yeah.
And fighters, I don't know who gives them the advice, but they're so worried about belts, man. It's about the fights that you make, the big fights. Do you want to be like Bud and not get your big fight until you're in your mid 30s? And then now you're trying to go out the Canelo to get, you know, the money. And, you know, you want the money that you missed out all this time. Boots, you don't want to do that. This is a big fight. Put your name out in the big level. But I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's an interesting take, Gary. And I definitely can hear from that side, especially for the fans and stuff. You know, by the way, shout out Isaac McCary. Says Boots Ennis versus Ryan Garcia when he comes back from suspension. That would be ridiculous.
That'd be a mega fight.
Yeah. I think, you know, you didn't really answer the question though. You kind of beat around the bush, and I've been dealing with this shit. I deal with this shit at court all the time. And so I'm going to have to object to you being vague. All right. Vague.
I'm being vague.
Is it a duck or is it not a duck? Yes or no?
I don't think he's scared of Vergil Ortiz.
Okay.
I think the way they went about handling everything makes it look more like a duck than like he's scared, because he wanted to fight him at 147. So if he was scared, he wouldn't have challenged him at 147. Now obviously Vergil Ortiz wasn't as experienced as he is now, and Vergil Ortiz's last fight, he didn't look great either.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if it's a duck. I just think it's just I don't know.
Vergil looked good, but yeah.
I mean, you thought he looked good?
Yeah, didn't he like stop a guy with a body shot or something?
Yeah, but he took some damage though doing that.
Well, you know, I didn't think he looked good.
I mean, when Boots takes damage, he look bad. So Vergil takes damage, he doesn't look good. I mean, he looks good.
I didn't.
I mean, I get it. They're different style of fighters, but
yeah.
but I honestly, I feel like this looks like a duck from on the Ennis side. Even though I don't think he's scared of him, I just think that really like he's you know, I think he's unsure of what he wants to do, and to me that's bad at this stage in your career. You got to be decisive. That's why Eddie Hearn said we can still make the fight, but you got to make up your mind what you want to do. You got Eddie Hearn out here tooting your horn and doing everything for you, and then he gets you a fight, one of probably the biggest fights you can have for your career.
By the way,
you make the man look bad right now, man. You make him look bad.
By the way, Isaac McCary says Beterbiev versus Befol 2 just became official too. That's big, and that's going to be on that
I seen that
card, that we're talking about. So we're going to touch on that in a bit too. But you know, this is how I know, Gary, you came through for me, man. You made me proud, bro. This is how I know we grew up in the same place. You know, because I got a lot of people saying this is a duck, and for me, in order to duck, that for me indicates that you're scared. If I'm going to call you a duck, it's because I believe you are scared of the person that they're trying to put in front of you. Gary, are you still there?
Yeah, for some reason my thing went black.
Okay.
I don't know. Go ahead.
So for me, so for me, when someone calls you a duck, it insinuates you're scared of the person. That's why you're ducking them out of fear. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think there's any other meaning behind the word duck in a boxing context. It means you're just scared. And for me, I definitely don't think Jaron Boots Ennis is scared of Vergil Ortiz or anyone. I mean, this is the same guy that's calling out Terrence Crawford, right? So for me, it's impossible to call him a duck. Different meanings for different people, maybe different strokes for different folks. Gary, couple of dudes down from Miami. A duck means you're scared, man. And I don't think Jaron Boots Ennis is scared. I also don't think there's anything in the history that we've seen from Vergil Ortiz, even though I think it would be a great fight. I think it'll probably be closer than you think it would be. I don't think there's anything in the history that we've seen from either guy to make me think that Jaron Boots Ennis would duck him out of fear. I think it relates to kind of something you said earlier. What makes it look bad is that we know Vergil Ortiz is not coming back down to 147, bro. So don't even offer that. Don't even talk about that. Don't proffer that to the public. He's not going down to 147. The guy can't make it. He was a skeleton at 147. And then, you know, even Boots, this makes it look even worse, right? Even Boots, remember in his last fight, Gary, afterwards, he was like, shoot, maybe 154, I feel stronger up there. Like, he was starting to sound like he was struggling to stay at 147. So I think that makes it look worse. But that doesn't change the fact that Boots Ennis can still possibly, potentially make 147 pounds and unify the division. Again, you said this earlier, and I kind of agree with this. And I did hear Eddie Hearn talk about that at some point, right? He said maybe having Boots unify the division. So I think if the fight doesn't get made, which I think it's still possible, especially when you got turkey money in the background, right? There's a lot of hey, that turkey is stuffed with money.
It was going to be the biggest payday for both of their careers.
Let me tell you, that turkey is stuffed with money. They stuffed it with money. And so, you know, it's a fight that could still be made. But if it doesn't get made, I would imagine that Boots is going to have to line something up at 147 to help him become undisputed at 147. And for me, that's respectable. I mean, if that's what the fighter wants to do, Gary, I'm okay with it. Unifying is a big deal because maybe he wants to unify at 147 and then go up to 154 and unify there and make history kind of the same way Bud Crawford did. You know what I mean? So I don't really hold it against him. The other thing, Gary, before I let you go on, because you look like your head's about to pop off. You want to say something so bad. Is the other thing I wanted to say is you know, Boots Ennis, you know, he's maybe he's letting it marinate. You know what I mean? I mean, they're still young. These guys aren't that old, Gary. These guys are still in their 20s. Maybe he can afford at his age to let this fight marinate for one more year or whatever it is. But I do agree. I mean, we've seen this in boxing, Gary, where the big money fight was there on the horizon and they didn't take it, and poof, it was gone with the wind. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about fights between, you know, Fury versus AJ. I'm thinking about fights between Wilder versus AJ. I'm thinking about all these fights that could have been.
That never happened.
Right, but people kept kicking the can down the street, Gary, and we ended up with a can of bullshit, really. So that's pretty much my thoughts on that one.
Well, see, here's the thing is that in my opinion is you can't say I'm the boogeyman, that I'll fight anybody, anywhere, whoever. People talk too much. Sign the contract. Let's get it on. I'll fight 154 if I have to, 147, and things of these natures. And then somebody actually comes out and says, all right, because you called out Vergil Ortiz before at 147, and you're saying, yo, we sent Vergil a contract. Vergil, they said, nah, that's 4 years down the road, which, okay, they didn't feel he was ready yet.
No.
I think when they said that was, what, 3 years ago? Almost 4?
Yeah.
So now it's here, and they're like, yo, come up to 154. You say you're getting tired of 147. You go to Eddie Hearn Promotions, and you tell Eddie Hearn you want to stay active. You want big fights. You know what I mean? You want big fights. This is the big fight. You haven't had a big fight in your career. This is here on the table. And I think sometimes boxers, and it annoys me, it aggravates me a little bit sometimes with boxers, when they're like, oh, I want these belts, my legacy, this, that, and the third. The belts will come. Like Floyd figured out. I think even Tank figured out, like,
but Gary, you don't
cool,
see Gary.
But that don't make you pop. That don't make you get the bag, man.
Gary, but you don't see the significance of unifying and potentially making history. I mean, that's not even on your radar.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. We do sports. Whenever you do sports, you want to accomplish
Gary,
something.
What the hell was that, Gary? That the Bud Light coming up? Is that the Bud Light?
No. I drink Heineken's, baby. Yeah, but I mean, you don't make money. Like Bud unified 2 divisions, but he didn't get his biggest fight until he was in his mid-30s to make money.
Yeah,
Errol Spence was bigger than him, and Errol Spence never unified anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And you get Tyson when he goes, these belts mean nothing. They just collect dust. Where's the money at? Tank Davis is one of the biggest draws over here. What did he unify?
Well, let me ask you though, Gary. Let me ask you. I mean, you're an athlete growing up as well. It's got to mean. I mean,
it does mean something. It's not everything to me.
Right. It means something, Gary, to athletes. It means something, bro. Like, what
would you brainwashed?
What would you do if you had the opportunity to stay down and unify, knowing that, you could potentially get that fight next? Would you take the fight or would you stay back and unify?
Well, see, here's the problem. This is what I'm saying. You've been trying to unify, get these guys in the ring with you for a while till you try to unify. You just tried Brian Norman. You offered him 1.775 or whatever. Yeah. He declined it. He wanted above 2 million or something to do the fight, right? He declined it, so you couldn't get him in the ring. They sent something out to Conor Ben. You didn't get it. You were supposed to fight Mario Barrio, and then it was on, but then they end up pulling out, and now they're talking about Mario Barrios and Conor Ben fighting. Yeah. From what I just seen. Yeah. So you're not really getting the fights you want. So you're not getting the fights you want. This could be a potentially big fight that can launch your career even higher. And if you really think you can beat the dude's ass, go up there, beat his ass, and come back down to 147. Yeah. You can still unify. People, when you talk about legacy, people are going to remember the fights you were in that were great fights, not people who, aren't going to be remembered later on. Like, nobody's going to remember Karen like that down the line. I'm not saying it because Karen's a trash fighter. He's a pretty solid fighter. But you want to do it against the, Bud and Errol Spence. That's legend. It's going to be a legendary, even though it turned out one-sided,
Yeah, and you want to do it on this big-ass card that I said we were going to touch on.
Exactly.
From Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I just wanted to show everybody out there in Knucklehead Nation. I mean, look at this card, Gary. I mean, Gary, this might be our time, Gary, to fly our ass to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, no, that ain't happening. That ain't happening.
Why not, Gary?
I ain't got that kind of bread.
Nah, we'll go. We'll get them to sponsor us. But check it out. They already got a name for the card. The Last Crescendo. It's the rematch, February 22nd, 2025, live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol for the World Light Heavyweight Championship. Undisputed. Gary, I think I want to get Taylor Ramsdale in here. He's Dimitri Bivol's strength and conditioning coach. He's a buddy of ours. I definitely want to get him on the show. Maybe we could do that sometime this week. But look at this card, Gary. Let's go through it real quick. Obviously, Beterbiev and Bivol, absolutely crazy fight, Gary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best of the best at light heavyweight. Then Daniel Dubois, Gary, versus Joseph Parker, man. Gary, this is a boxing fan's dream right here. This is next up in my opinion, for Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Whoever wins this fight between Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker, they should get the winner of those two. Then you got Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, who I made a video on this earlier in the week. Shout out to Floyd Schofield for stepping up and taking this fight, Gary. I'd love your thoughts on this, but we'll circle back to it. You got Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz for the middleweight championship. Adames is not really well known. Neither is Shiraz here in the United States, but I've seen Shiraz fight. I've seen Adames fight. Shiraz really impressed me his last time out. I look forward to seeing that fight as well. It's a good fight. Vergil Ortiz, it looks like, versus Israel Madrimov, Gary.
Yeah.
Versus Madrimov. I mean, that is a fantastic fight for the WBC World Interim Super Welterweight Championship. Then we have Zhilei Zhang, the Big Bang, Gary, taking on Agit Kabayel, vacant WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship. It's crazy. Every one of these fights, Gary, there's a title on the line. And then finally, Joshua Buatsi, a guy who's really solid out of the UK, takes on another guy from there, Callum Smith, for the WBO World Interim Light Heavyweight Championship. Gary, this card is so damn stacked, Gary.
It's stacked.
And man, missing an opportunity like this, you're right, man. You're right. I mean, thinking about it now, you know, me and you kind of talk through this stuff. Thinking about it now, man, it makes me think like, wow, dude, you're going to miss out on an opportunity like that with those kind of names and that kind of attention. Everybody's going to be tuning into that card.
That's my whole point is like, you have an opportunity and you can't, like, I think sometimes athletes, not just boxers or whatever, they get caught up in, oh, I want to do this, and they don't think business wise how this can, like, Floyd Mayweather was smart because Floyd Mayweather, he went and took less to fight, you know, De La Hoya, let De La Hoya control everything. And he knew that, okay, I'm taking less, but this will level me up if I win this fight. Yeah. Same thing with Devin Haney. Devin Haney agreed to everything Kambosos asked. And it was just like, you know, it's like, it was crazy that he had to do the rematch back in Australia again. Yeah. But he did it because he knew once I have the belts, it's going to level me up.
I remember his dad. I remember his dad was even like having a hard time getting out there because of his like, criminal convictions or something like that. That's crazy, man. And he still went through with it.
And the thing is that's the whole point of it is sometimes you got to take a risk. Sometimes you got to, it may not be the optimal situation. You can't sit there and wait for the perfect situation or say, I deserve this, deserve that. You got to look at it. It's a gain in there too. You know?
No, I mean, the more I think about it, the harder it becomes for me to find a reason for him to stay other than that unification, man. And I understand that could mean a lot, right? Especially if he's able to do it in multiple weight divisions and make history. But damn, that's a lot of money, Gary. I mean, that might be, Gary, that might be exit money. That might be enough money to just say, I'm out of here, big dog. Like, thank you, I'm out. Like, I'm gonna go buy some real estate with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. No, I mean, you that's what I'm saying. You got the money, the biggest payday of your career. This is probably the biggest stage of your career. Yeah. You know, to be on that stage and to actually, you know, really get your name. You could, if you want Bud that much, this will put pressure on Bud if you come up there and you beat a guy like Vergil Ortiz.
And you let Madrimov take it from you, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing, though. Eddie Hearn also promotes Madrimov, you know, so I'm wondering, that's just got me thinking, too. I mean, was there some sort of conflict of interest there? Did he say, you know, let me give Madrimov dibs and then we'll get you in there next? I mean, you know, that's another thing.
I do not think that's what happened. I think Boots, based off of Boots' statement online, Boots was the one that made this call, because if you listen to all the interviews with Eddie Hearn is calling out Oscar De La Hoya on this. Yeah. He's like, yo, I'll put Boots up against Vergil. Let's go. You know what I mean? He's adamant about it. You're not adamant about that and then backtrack like that.
Yeah, no, you're
Then
right.
you get Boots' dad and saying, Boots' dad, you know, he's saying, yeah, that's easy work for us.
Well, it's the fight game. Sometimes it's for show, but I agree with you. I don't
but I think Eddie Hearn, because even after Boots came out with his statement, the way Eddie Hearn responded to that, it seemed like Eddie Hearn was like, hey, you won the big fights. And, like Shakur Stevenson said, Eddie Hearn isn't scared to put his fighters in tough fights. He's willing.
Go ahead.
No, I said he's willing to go let his fighters fight. Yeah. And if they lose, they lose.
Yeah. So you just mentioned Shakur Stevenson before we segue into that, and I think now is a good time. If you haven't already, knuckleheads, please subscribe to the channel, join the channel, help us continue to build. It'll be much appreciated, and you'll help us continue to drop consistent content for you guys. Join Knucklehead Nation by subscribing. So, Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, Gary. For me, everybody's writing Schofield off, right? And I understand why. We're all expecting Shakur Stevenson to win this fight. He's the boxer. He's the more conservative fighter. He's the more seasoned fighter. He's older. He's got more fights under his belt. But, Gary, I like this fight, Gary. I like this fight. I think it sets a good example. I've been thinking about this fight, really toiling over it. I think it sets a good example for boxing. It gives these guys, it lights a fire in boxing. It lets these young guys know that, hey, you can go in there, man, and give it a go. And we're going to gain respect for you. We're not going to lose respect for you if you lose against a guy that has more experience than you, a guy that's supposed to beat you. Schofield, even though in his last fight, people are saying, oh, he got hurt and this and that, Gary. I liked his performance, man, and he put himself out there. It's kind of like what you talk about, the excuse that you always make for Jaron Ennis. I saw your excuse in the Schofield fight because, if you throw punches, you got a chance of getting hit back. And he went to war with that guy when he didn't have to. And he got hit because of it. But, Gary, I think this is a good style matchup for Schofield and for Shakur Stevenson, right? Because Stevenson, we know he's not going to open up. He needs somebody that's willing to go after him and press the action. And, Gary, I think Floyd Schofield might be that guy. He might be the guy to come after him and really put it on him and make him fight and show us something different. What do you think?
I got to disagree with you. I didn't like Schofield's last fight. And it wasn't because he got dropped, but I don't never think he was hurt. Right. Don't get me wrong. I seen Abdullah Mason get dropped twice. I don't think Schofield was hurt, but I do think it showed a little bit of some things he need to grow in. You never agree with me. You're just here to disagree and make me feel bad all the time. I'm just saying. I think in that fight but now I do agree. I do agree that he's fighting. He's not gonna fight Shakur the same way he fought that guy. He knows better than that. Yeah. He's not gonna do that. If he does that, he's gonna get ate alive. You know what I mean? But I do think it's a good fight, and I 1,000% agree with you that this is what boxing needs. You can't be scared. You can't be scared to take a risk. Try to wait out years and years, and you let your promoter kind of slow walk you through it. Even though I don't think that's bad. But if you want to go and take a chance, go take a chance, and you feel like you can beat the guy, and don't worry about losing the O on your record, because you can lose the O on your record and still, like Mario Barrios, he lost. He went up to 147. He got a belt now. He's still popping. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And so I do love it that both fighters, even Shakur on his side, he's like, okay, young dude, you talking smack. You think you can come up with the big dogs? I'll show you. I ain't gonna say, oh no, you too out of it. I'm not gonna fight you.
Yeah, you're not too.
Yeah,
let's go. Let's run it.
Yeah, you want to go? Okay, let's go. Yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, but we can go.
So what do you think of these fights, Gary? I mean, this is not an official prediction or anything like that, but what are your thoughts on some of these fights? I mean, obviously Beterbiev, Bivol, is going to be. I don't know who's going to win that after that last one. I thought it was super tight.
I think the boys.
That's a fun fight, man.
I mean, yeah, but that's not the fight I wanted to see him fight next.
Who'd you want?
I think he'll beat Parker.
You think so?
Huh?
You think
Bacoli. So? I would have liked to see Bacoli in him.
Oh, Bacoli would have been fun too.
That would have been nice. Him and Bacoli. And Bacoli, after what he did to Jared Anderson, and he's been winning, and
Yeah, but Bacoli, I don't think Bacoli has beaten. To be fair, Bacoli has not yet beaten. He has the talent, I think, to beat, but he has not beaten the guys these guys beat. I mean, when you think about it, Joseph Parker just beat. Didn't he just beat Wilder and Zhang back to back?
Yeah, he did beat Zhang. He did beat.
And then
he did beat Zhang, Big Zhang.
And then Dubois, I mean, just knocked out AJ pretty bad. You know what I mean? So I mean, these guys are next in line for me. And
I mean, I get it, but Parker has what, like three losses.
A decision loss. Let me tell you what it is. A decision loss. No, he actually beat Andy Ruiz. My bad. When he was champ too. He's a former champ, and he beat Ruiz when he was champ. But that was a close fight. He lost the decision. He lost a decision to AJ years ago, and then he got stopped by Joe Joyce when Joe Joyce was kind of, had a head of steam back then. I don't know what he's looking like now. Not looking too great, but I definitely think,
And then he lost to then her. What's his? How do you say his name? I forgot. Yeah, Hergovich. Did he fight Hergovich?
I don't know. Oh, but Dubois beat
Hergovich. Yeah. I agree, Dubois. I just think it would have been a crazy fight with Bacoli.
Yeah. It would be a crazy fight. I definitely think Bacoli's knocking on the door, but yeah, man. I mean, Zhang and Wilder before that, and he hasn't lost since Joe Joyce back in 2022. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Is Joseph Parker? So
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm just telling you what I want to see.
No, I hear you. I want to see Bacoli too.
Yeah, because I think Dubois beats Parker. Because let's keep it real. He fought Wilder, who I think Wilder's pretty much not the same guy anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's figured it out. He's taken a lot of damage in those Furies fights. Parker fought him before Zhang. But, I just think he's not the same guy anymore. Yeah. I don't think he's that guy anymore. And then when you look at when he fought Zhang is what, like 40 years old?
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, he's like 40 years old.
Yeah, but he's still kind of
Nah, he's still a big ass motherfucker. And he dropped Joseph Parker twice in that fight, I believe.
He's 41, by the way. He's our age.
Yeah, that's what I'm
saying. Let's go, Zhang. Hey, we're cheering for Zhang, dude. We're cheering for Zhang. But yeah, that Dubois fight, man. I don't know who's gonna win that fight. I guess I would lean a little bit towards Dubois just because he seems like more of a bigger, stronger heavyweight that can knock you out with one punch. I don't think Joseph Parker's that guy, so I would lean towards Dubois. But I could easily see Parker winning off of technique. I think he might be a little bit sharper, a little bit better a boxer.
He could, Dubois, but I wouldn't bet my money on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. You're always wrong, and I'm always right. We've also got Shakur Stevenson, Schofield. We just touched on that. I mean, again, I think Shakur will win that fight, but I think Schofield has the potential to make it an exciting fight. Definitely has a puncher's chance, I guess. But I just like that he's young, he's hungry, and he's willing to push himself.
Yeah. I love it from Schofield, and I love it from Shakur. I think this is. I see Isaac saying, Shakur's boring. You know what I'm saying? Shakur's boring. And I really think that styles makes fight. I think if Shakur would have fought Zepeda, you won't be saying that he's boring because he's a counterpuncher. When guys come forward to him, he's going to throw more. Yeah. You have to force him to throw more. If that's why I always said Tank and Shakur fight is not going to be entertaining as people think because both of them are counterpunchers. Both of them don't throw a lot of punches. But when you get somebody like Zepeda or you get somebody like Kid Austin that really wants to come in there and brawl it out, you know what I mean? I mean that's when he's at his most exciting to me.
Yeah.
He needs a dance partner that will make the fight exciting. And that's the only problem you have with Shakur is you need a dance partner that's gonna make him throw his hands more.
For sure. And then Adames versus Shiraz. I mean, I don't know much about Adames. I need to look at him some more.
Yeah, I don't.
But and I don't know too much about Shiraz, but what I did see from him, he looked good and very long for the division, long arms.
I gotta check him out. I never seen neither one of them.
Yeah, and he looked good. He got the knockout last time, I think, when he was out there in Saudi against I think it was Emma Williams that he knocked out, if I'm not wrong. So I think he's a good, solid fighter. And then, Ortiz versus Madrimov, Gary. I mean, what are your thoughts on that fight? Because that's interesting, man. That's an interesting fight. Those guys are on the same level, I think.
I mean, I think it's a dangerous fight for I just lost my thought.
Madrimov?
No, not Madrimov, for
Ortiz?
Yeah, Ortiz. I couldn't think of the name. I don't know why it went out of my head. It's a dangerous fight for Ortiz because Madrimov, he's no slouch. He can fight, he can punch, But I appreciate Ortiz for not taking no layups. You just seen him give Bud some trouble.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to put yourself in there. If you go out and wipe the guy out, you know what I mean? Then people are going to say, "Hey, Bud, fight this guy."
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with Boots in a sense is this is your chance to really put on the show and say, "I'm that guy. If come fight me," And so that's the only thing I think. I heard that he was also trying to fight Fundora, but Fundora said no.
Interesting. McCary's in here saying, is there a reason Fraga's members only? Sorry about that. I'll actually make that public right now. Make that public for you right now. But I'm interested in that Madrimov-Ortiz fight, man. I'm really interested in that Madrimov-Ortiz fight. It's an intriguing fight. I think it's a very dangerous fight. I think that's a very dangerous fight for Vergil Ortiz, man, especially with the possibility of Boots Ennis lingering. I think this is a fight. This is a fight that we might see go poof on the horizon, Gary, like what we were talking about earlier, because Madrimov can easily go in there and beat Vergil Ortiz. I think that can easily happen. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened. I mean, I'm looking at it right now as potentially a 50-50 fight, but somebody's going to win that fight, and I can see either guy winning, and man, that would be a shame. That would be a shame to lose that, to lose that opportunity to see that big fight happen, Gary. So they may live to regret it, Gary, as you've indicated. Then we got Zhilei Zhang versus Agit Kabayel. This is one I'm pretty excited about too, just because, we're hardcore boxing fans. These are fights that we like. Kabayel, Gary, Kurdish guy fighting out of Germany, tough guy, undefeated, knocked out Frank Sanchez, the Cuban, stopped him in their last fight. The Cuban guy that trains with Canelo. Kabayel, just a tough guy, man. And Zhang, also very tough, very powerful. I can see this fight being one of the most exciting fights of the night because neither one of them has spectacular foot movement. Kabayel is probably going to have the better foot movement. But both guys like to be aggressive and bang you out of there. Gary, I think this is going to be a slobber knocker, like they used to say. I think that's what we're going to see in this fight.
I really only seen Zhang. I haven't seen the other guy.
Yeah.
So I gotta go watch some of his fights and see what I can see and see what I can find. But I really don't know him too much, so I really can't speak on that one too much.
Yeah, yeah,
All I know is it don't turn out too good for people who try to bang with Zhang.
yeah, yeah,
And so, I mean, he's called the Big Bang for a reason.
yeah,
And,
yeah. No, I hear you.
huh?
I hear you. No, I hear you. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, Gary. I'm telling you, this is going to be, if these guys fight the way they normally fight, this could be like a classic heavyweight battle. I'm telling you.
Well, if you say if how you saying it, it might not last long for somebody to get knocked out.
Well, we've seen Zhang is incredibly durable
Yeah.
too. So if Kabyle is as durable as Zhang, it might just be rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah.
And that's an exciting fight. And then we have Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith, who's just coming off a pretty big win. Buatsi, I think, is the fresher of these two, but I think this is going to be a really good fight too. I think this is going to be a good fight. And Smith actually lost to Beterbiev. He's also lost to Canelo. I think Buatsi's undefeated still. So this is a good litmus test for him, man, fighting a guy with this much experience. And I think it's a good, man, Gary, this is a sit back.
This is if it stays the way it stays the way it stays, these are some bangers.
Yeah,
even though I would like to see some other fights, regardless, it's still bangers. Like I would like to see Ortiz and Boots, but it's still a banger with Madrimov. I would have liked to see Shakur and Zepeda, but it's still a good ass fight with Kid Austin.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see Du Bois with Bacali. But I mean, Joseph Parker is still a really good fighter. So I mean, I think it's a really good card. I like what Big Turk does. He gets it going, and I don't know what I would like to. I'm still waiting for Jerron Ennis to have an interview or his dad to tell me why you wouldn't want to be. Because I don't think that. I think if Jerron Ennis and Ortiz fought, they'll probably be higher up on the card.
Yeah, listen, nobody stuffs a turkey like Turkey El Sheikh, brother. I'm telling you, nobody stuffs it like him. These guys are going to get paid very handsomely, I got a feeling, and that's going to be an incredible card, Gary. And I can't wait for us to, make our official predictions on it and touch on it, maybe cover it and go live. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to have to go live after these big fights coming forward, Gary. So that's what it is. But anyway, Gary, that's all I have for them this evening.
Real quick before you leave, I have to ask you this because I know you as one of my close friends, and I know how you are about this.
Tell me.
What'd you think about I forgot his name, just went out my head just then. He missed weight by like 15 pounds.
Carmel Moulton?
Yeah, Moulton. What do you feel about that? Carmel Moulton.
I talked about that a little bit yesterday, about these guys, their heads not being in it, when they walk in.
15 pounds, George?
What's that?
It was like 15 pounds.
I know, man.
That's crazy.
I know.
It's like, did he even try?
Yeah, I talked about it in yesterday's video, Gary. If your head's not in this, don't sign the dotted line, bro. You got to be sure that your mind is clear. You got to be sure that this is what you want to do, Gary. Because, and you know what? Sorry about that. I'm trying to deal with something here. Gary, you're the perfect person to discuss this with. At Fighters Rep in the last 2 weeks, and this is part of the reason I'm kind of also, Gary, stepping back. As you know, my bandwidth is way too full between my full-time, my kids in sports, and Fighters Rep. I got to drop one, and I can't drop the full-time of the kids, so I'm dropping Fighters Rep for the time being. I'm not sure when I'm coming back. But part of the reason I'm dropping it is because, Gary, you know how I get about this. In the last 2 weeks before the event, 6 fights dropped. 6 fights dropped on a potential bout card where you can have 18 fights. So you're talking about 1/3 of the card dropping, Gary, in the last 2 weeks before the event. In the week leading up to the event, there was 3 days where I had a fight drop in 3 back-to-back days. And then we almost had a fight drop. We had one drop at the weigh-in, and then we almost had one drop at fight night. At fight night.
Yeah.
It almost dropped. We were this close. And, you know, you got to understand, you know, when somebody is a coach like yourself or a promoter like myself, you know, and they're doing something in sports where they got to deal with a bunch of different people and where they got to deal with a bunch of different headaches and where, you know, I got to make sure that everybody shows up on the same day at the same time, and I got to coordinate 200 people, fighters, coaches, ring card girls, commissioners, ambulance, doctors, whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and energy that goes into this, Gary. It's a lot, and it takes from other parts of your life, right? So that's something I would implore that all people, not just fighters, especially fighters, but all people think about before they sign that dotted line. Before you give that commitment, Gary, make sure that you're going to follow through with that commitment. Because let me tell you, Gary, I've seen a dedication.
Yeah.
Just the overall dedication of the population, I think in general, has just been dwindling since I started doing this shit. And it's always been some kind of bullshit. But for 6 fights to fall out in the matter of 2 weeks leading up to the fight, I mean, a lot of these people are probably waiting until the fight to pull out, giving the promoter and the opponent no chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To kind of rectify the situation. And that's the same deal. That's the same thing I thought about when I looked at you know,
Carmel Moulton.
Carmel Moulton?
Yeah, Carmel Moulton. Yeah.
Carmel Moulton. That's what I thought about. I saw Sonny Edwards, you know, yesterday retire after, you know, talk about retiring, or a couple of days ago talk about retiring after getting beat by Galal Yafai, because he said, you know, I put 7 years into this. I'm burned out.
Yeah.
I'm burned out. And when you're dealing with a situation, Gary, you know, like football or like fighting or whatever it is, where the other side is just not reciprocating the dedication, because you're showing up, Gary.
Yeah.
You're showing up and I'm showing up.
Yeah.
I know your ass is showing up to football practice. You're a maniac.
Yeah.
You're showing up. And I'm showing up. I'm showing up to every fight. I'm putting my money up every time. I was sick as a dog. I'm still sick. I'm still sick a week later. I'm still finally getting over it. It's just, it doesn't help.
So let me get this. Let me just get this. Let me just get this understood. Real quick. I want to ask you. Go ahead.
Let me make this one point, and then you say you.
I got a question to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not sure, stay your ass out the door. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna make it rhyme. If you're not sure, stay your ass out the door. Don't sign. Don't sign up. We don't want to deal with the headache. Nobody wants that headache. Go get help. I'm not trying to be insensitive here. Go get help. Get whatever it is you need fixed. Work on yourself. And then when you know you're ready to sign up and do something and dedicate yourself, do it. But don't half-ass it. Go ahead, Gary.
So my question to you is, so do you think Carmel Moulton probably has some things going on outside of the ring, or he just was bullshitting?
15 pounds, Gary. If he's bullshitting, it's because he's not mentally there, Gary.
That's what I'm saying. You think it's mentally something going on? Because he never missed nothing at that
Gary,
much.
what else? But Gary, what else can it be? What else can it be?
Just being Adrian Broner missed weight because he just doesn't stay in shape.
Adrian Broner doesn't have the mental piece to be a great fighter.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do you think that's the case with Carmel Moulton, or do you think he probably has some shit going on?
I think if you show up to weigh in 15 pounds over, There's something going on, bro. There's something going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't just,
And it's surprising to me. It's surprising to me because he's been promoted by Mayweather. Mayweather never missed weight. He was always dedicated. He always stayed in shape. So to see one of his fighters miss that badly, that's crazy to me.
Mayweather's a different generation, brother. Mayweather's comes from a different cloth. Mayweather.
He can't be happy with that, though. He can't be happy with that.
Gary, you're going to compare how our kids grew up to how we grew up?
I'm just saying, as a promoter, you can't be happy. You got arguably one of the greatest fighters ever as your promoter, and he's telling you, and how do you get, I don't know, man. I just,
listen.
But then again, Adrian Broner was close with Floyd at one point, and he did the same thing.
Listen, I planned, right, and began the matchmaking process and really put together. And every time I put together an entire card, I went through.
Yeah,
and that was 27 times plus 3 times helping another promotion. We're talking 30 times.
Yeah.
Sick, not sick, fucked up mentally, not fucked up mentally. You know, Gary, you know what's going on overseas right now. I don't got to tell you what's going on. You know where the family's from. I got all kinds of stuff going on, Gary. You got all kinds of stuff going on, Gary.
Yep.
But when you sign up to do something, Gary, thou shalt not lie. If you don't do it, you a damn liar, bro. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
And there ain't no way around it, bro. There ain't no way around it. And I just
had to.
Some excuses carry weight. There are some excuses, that are justified. Like if you got injured to the point where you just can't fight.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. But me personally, if I was injured, unless it's something that I can't get in the ring, I'm probably gonna want to fight. I mean, that's how it is for me.
I had to stir you up a little bit before we get off. I had to just
Thank you.
I just had to put the stir in there, get you going. Because the first person I thought about when I seen that Carmel Moulton thing was you.
Gary, one time I actually took the time to sit there and count it because I was so blown away. I was so blown away by the lack of dedication, Gary, that I said, you know what? I'm going to go back through all my text messages and I'm going to count how many pullouts I had on this card. One time, Gary, I shit you not, I believe I had over 50, either 15 or more on one card.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have the last card only had 13 fights on it. If 15 guys pull out, that's more than half the card that pulled out. I mean, it's just
we gotta do like Cam and Mays. You keep talking about pulling out.
I've seen more pullouts on this card than every Diddy party, every Diddy party since the year 2000, bro. I see more pullouts, and I just don't want to, Gary. And I just don't want to deal with it, bro.
Yeah,
Gary,
I got you.
Gary, you know why? Because I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah,
man. Hey, like my boy Project Pat used to say, men do what they want and boys do what they can, brother. And I'm doing what the hell I want to do.
Yeah, man, I got you. All right, what, you got anything else?
Well, you didn't tell me how it is in football. I mean, I'm interested to know, has the dedication. I'll tell you another thing too that people might not like to hear. It's different out here on the West Coast. People down in South Florida, those athletes down there, from what I've seen, are way more dedicated than athletes I've run into on the West Coast.
I think if we talking about football or whatever, but not even just football, basketball. I think in all those type of sports, it's the one thing that changed. The one thing that changed from when we grew up is entitlement. A lot of kids, because you got social media, you can get famous off of social media quick. Somebody can show your highlight or what you did, and it can blow up. You can get a lot of, now you got, all these things going on. But I think social media really, really, people think it's the NIL deals and stuff like that, which it does have an effect. But the social media, when you're at a young age and you can get 1 million followers just by being good in Pop Warner or whatever, or being good at high school. But okay, you got those followers. You still haven't accomplished what you need to accomplish in football.
Social media is a fraudster's best friend, from what I've seen.
Man, man, the way people have these followers on social media,
it's a fraudster. Listen, it's a fraudster and a manipulator. And
I'm not hating though.
Best friend, bro.
I'm not. Hey, listen, I'm not hating on it. It's money to be made out there. Yeah. Hey, if I can go do it right now, I'll do it too. But it's amazing what social media does for people so early.
There are stories that I have, and then I see these fighters go to other promotions. I see them matched up at other promotions. I say to myself, man, this dude ain't going to show up. And I know in my heart, this dude's not going to show up. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I can't say nothing, bro. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want nothing to do with it, Gary. I know some of these coaches, some of the things I've seen them do, some of these fighters, some of the stuff I've seen them do. I mean, I will say the majority of the people I worked with were good people. But some of these people that I've worked with, and not just in fighting, in law and everything.
Yeah.
But man, some of the stuff I've seen, I see them, when someone does you dirty one time, that's a character thing, bro. They're not going to get better that easy. Like, for them to get better would be like very rare. And so when they do something crazy with me, I see them go to another promotion. I see another promotion sign them up. I say, you don't want to learn from my mistake. You're going to have to make your own mistake. You know what I mean? Make your own mistake.
I got to get out of here.
All right, big dog. Appreciate it.
I got to go pick up the little one from work.
I got you. Thank you, Knuckleheads. You guys have a great night. Subscribe, join the channel. Peace.